Hello and welcome to the Hearts TV studio. I'm Robert Borthwick and I'm delighted this afternoon to be joined by Shelley Kerr. Shelley, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. Your first interview, welcome to Hearts. How are you finding it all so far?
I think anybody would tell you when you go into club football it's 100 miles an hour, but in a good way. I think that's the way that I like it. It's very fast paced, much different from an international space, but it's been really enjoyable. Spending a bit of time firstly getting to know the staff but also the players as well, and especially that phase coming out of the academy into the under 18s and the B team.
Well, you're the technical development manager. Tell us a wee bit about what that role is and what you've been doing so far and what you hope to do again in the future.
I think the role is twofold. So firstly it's about supporting the B team, but it's also looking at the players coming out the academy and that transitional phase into the under 18s and the academy. And I think ultimately it's about trying to make sure that the players get the right wraparound support so that we give them every opportunity to excel at the club. And
it's quite a, I suppose, familiar-ish role for you as well with the FA down south. It wasn't dissimilar to what you're doing now. How was your time down there and what did you learn there that you can take into Hearts?
I think, well, the English FA obviously have lots of resource, both human and financial resource. So initially my role was technical lead, so they're pretty big on style of play, but keeping it consistent because players come into the pathway under 15 and all the way up to seniors. So they had a how we play strategy around how to develop players and how to develop the team. So my job was pretty much to critique it, evolve it, and then work with the coaches to deliver on it. And I think the big thing is looking at global trends in football, so that you can stay ahead of the curve. So that was a big part of the job. And then latterly I was head of girls and women's development team, so I spent a lot of time working with the coaches, supporting their development, but also every age group, so from 15s right through to under 19, so a big remit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, player development at Hearts especially is something the fans always want to see, and you're a Hearts fan yourself. We've seen Adam Forrester and James Wilson really breaking through this season. How exciting is that you've almost got that job and that will to help these players really make that step up from academy to first team?
I mean, for me it's the most exciting part in coaching. I'm managing if you're part of that strategic approach to the developmental issues at a club. Right now I think the club are doing fantastically well. It's quite unique to have two players that are starting almost every game, in Adam and James. That's a credit to the staff in the academy that have helped develop them. But for me, we need more. So it's a big task, but I think that should be the overarching objective of the academy, and then coming out the academy to try and get more players that are senior ready that can play in the first team and also in Europe. That's a big thing as well. We want the club to be in Europe, don't we? So.
Absolutely. I mean, you'll be working quite closely, I'd imagine, with Andrew Webster up at the academy, a guy who didn't come through the academy here but certainly joined at a very young age, knows what it takes to make that step to first team football. How important is it to have people like that at the club as well, throughout the academy?
I've spent a little time with Andrew so far, and obviously he really has a systematic approach to developing young players, but also the staff that he works with as well. Very diligent, and like you say, he knows what it takes to play at this club. He's got lots of different experiences, and as I say, he's a great mentor for the coaches, but also he's got a really good strategic head on him.
You're also assisting with the B team. Obviously we've mentioned the B team. Angus Beath recently put in as manager since Liam Fox took the step up to the first team. How are you finding being back out on the pitch? How are you finding being back, for the first time I think since Stirling University, back on the pitch? How are you finding that?
Well, obviously I had my time with the national team as well, but the hips are struggling a little bit now as I get a wee bit older. 56 this year, so it doesn't get any easier. No. Now, firstly, the players have been fantastic. We've got some real talent there, some who are out on loan just now. I speak about player development, but it's about people development as well, which I'm really passionate about. Angus has obviously worked at Balerno at the school, and he's a high potential coach. I've really enjoyed so far working with him. So receptive, he understands football really well, and he's open to new ideas, which sometimes isn't always the case in football. But I think across the board, looking at all the staff, the coaches, there's real good dynamics in there. There's no egos, which I think is really, really important. But my time with Angus so far, he's a very, very good coach, and I talk about succession planning. You talk about the players there wanting more players to come through the system, but it's the same with coaches as well. So player and coach development is really important.
I was about to say, coaching sort of development is a big part of your remit as well, and I feel like there's a lot of quite young coaches at the Hearts Academy. I mean, again, talk about excitement of the role and, you know, potentially moulding people to a higher level later in their careers. How have you been finding that so far, working with the coaches?
It's great because, you know, you get all those coaches in a room. They have different skill sets. Some are better than other things, you know, but I think the key thing that I'm noticing already is they're all working to the same goal, and that is their passion for developing players. And, you know, it's not so much about academy level. It's not about winning all the time. It's about trying to look at the individual and almost have that bespoke approach to developing individuals that are going to succeed later on. And I think for me, all the coaches have that passion and desire to develop the individuals, and that's not all the case either. Always the case. Some coaches are very, very outcome driven in terms of results, and I'm not saying that we don't want to win, but the important thing is that we are developing individuals so that, you know, they can perform at their optimal best. And
you talk about developing individuals, a really interesting point. I think a lot of teams nowadays sort of, when they're discussing new signings or new coaches, new managers, it's about the personality as much as it is about the sort of the skill, the talent. How hard is that to kind of work with sometimes, with personality versus just complete talent, and finding the right people and developing the right people?
I think that's what the coaches are good at. They know the players, they've come through the pathway, so they're constantly having discussions. You know, you always talk about the four corners, you know, the technical aspects, the tactical aspects, the physical and the psychological, and the dynamics are important as well. And, you know, there's some things you can't install in players. They have to have that inner desire, you know, knowing what it takes to be a Hearts player. But for me, I think the coaches do a great job. Obviously, Andy's done a fantastic job. Andy Webster, in terms of the academy, they've got a strategy. So there's components in there that help the players understand what it takes to get to the highest level. And of course, you know, they're young players, so we have to look at the age and stage of their development, making sure they're in the right environment so that they can excel.
Absolutely, and looking at it, obviously we've got the B team, we've got 18s, all those age levels. Loans are another thing. We've seen Callum Sandilands go out quite recently to Montrose after excelling in the B team. Is it quite a sort of mixed approach, I suppose, to who will develop best where? Will it be the B team? Will it be going out on loan or training with the first team? Is it quite a fluid approach that Hearts have got?
And that's an area of work that obviously I'm going to be honing in on, because I do think it's important. You know, you make the example about Callum Sandilands out at Montrose, that might not suit another player, so it's a bespoke. It has to be designed to that individual because they're all unique and they need different things at different points of their career. And
I mean, looking at, obviously you spent so much time with the Scottish FA over the years. Gam Jones has just come in as sporting director. Is he someone that you knew from back then, or is this a new relationship that you're sort of building from the ground up?
I've known Graham a long time, and first and foremost, I think that, you know, it's a fantastic appointment for the club. And what I really like about Graham is the simplicity. Sometimes, you know, people have the tendency to make football complex, and he always gives clarity on what he wants. I think that's really important, and his communication skills are fantastic as well. And I think it's really important for us as a club going forward that we have clarity in terms of that future direction. And so far, you know, my working relationship with him at Hearts, you know, I think he allows people to lead. And I think that's really important in a management position. But my previous relationship with him, always clarity in the messaging in terms of what he wants. So really good. And to be fair, I think he's made a few good signings already as well.
Absolutely, and you look at the importance as well, for clubs the size of Hearts, having that experience from within the national team setup, from within the Scottish FA. Again, it's all that shared experience coming into club level is a really interesting sort of dynamic, I suppose, going from, like you said, you get a few breaks with international, but with football, club football, it's 100 miles an hour all the time, and making that transition back to it can be a really interesting phase.
It is. I think that for me, the more experience and exposure you have to different environments, I think it's a brilliant thing. Certainly my own experience, I've been fortunate to travel across the world with football, had a role with FIFA, doing some consultancy work. You get to see how other countries operate at both in a national space and club level, and bringing back that best practice, and having the ability to then implement it, at a club like Hearts is fantastic.
And just finally, probably the hardest question saved to last, but if we speak again in 5 years' time, what does success look like for Shelley Kerr? What does it look like for Heart of Midlothian?
I don't think it's a hard question for me, because I'm really passionate about the club first and foremost, but I'm also passionate about developing people, and that's players and coaches. So I don't want to put a target on it, but I think that if you look at the example of James and Adam just now playing in the first team, I think we need to have that succession plan that it happens every year, that we have one or two players breaking into the first team. So for me, that's what success would look like from a playing perspective. But then also looking at the staff as well, making sure that the coaches are ready to step up, and just that all-rounded approach to developing people at the club.
Shelley, thank you very much. Very interesting. I'm sure we'll be speaking to you again very soon, but thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Perfect.